Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Evolution Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Terrance Johnson. As always, thanks for joining me. As we start our program, I always like to thank you for all the support, the encouraging words, the great comments, and so forth and so on as we journey towards our way towards 100,000 subscribers on Instagram and trying to obtain the same goal on YouTube. With that being said, I'm in the studio again today. It's not going to be our typical podcast. I have some questions that are going to be asked, and I'm going to do my very best to answer them as candidly as possible and hope in some way that it helps and benefits those that are looking for these type of answers. But before we get into that, I just want to let you know, and remember, life is worth living. I know there's some challenging times going on right now. I mean, we all would see what's happening across the world, but at the end of the day, I implore you, don't lose your faith. Don't lose your ability to balance reality and seeing what's really going on. Protect your mind, protect your body, and protect your spirit. Okay, with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. Oh, you know what? I got to do a shout out first and foremost. I want to shout out my barber, Maine. What's up, Maine? I know he's going to be pleasantly surprised. Maine's over at Taper's Barbershop. Off Cobb Parkway, I believe. That's my man over there here in the A. So anyway, I want to shout my man out. And also the studio in which I do my recording. My guy, Gus, he's just been a wonderful asset to the team, and he just does phenomenal work. And I definitely wanted to shout him out. Kaigito Creative. That's my man's Gus Studio. So please check him out here in Atlanta, Georgia as well. Well, let's jump right into it, folks. Okay, guys, what you got for me?
The first question is, you mentioned the education lie on a previous podcast. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure, the education lie. Well, the education lie is relatively simple. And I want to be clear, I am not opposed to education. I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm about to say here. But the fact is that education is a pure lie. At the end of the day, school does not teach you to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't even teach you to really be self-efficient. School teaches you to be an employee. That's just the fact of the matter. Now, can everyone have their own business? Of course they can. Should everyone have one? No. And obviously, we always going to need employees to run the country. But however, the things have changed so much, and with the onslaught of artificial intelligence, I tell you what. Those who are in the labor market, especially those who are in the service industry, the trucking industry, there are some dark times ahead. There are some truly dark times ahead. And if one does not educate themselves, so I'm not opposed to education, just what you're being educated about. Most people are being educated in the sense that you're going to be a slave to the system until you die. And think about the lie. You go to school for 12 years. Then you go to school for an additional 4 years. And if you want to get a master's degree, it's an additional 2 years. And if you want to get your doctorate, it's some more years, right? And then you go to work for 40 years, 30 years of your life. Retire at so-called 65 with a life expectancy of 75. So you really only get 10 years to enjoy everything you work for. That is crazy. That is ass backwards. And I'm going to say it. Most people aren't going to say this. You know, he's belly aching. No, I'm not belly. You basically a slave your entire life. Your entire damn life. Now, whether you're a slave in a mansion or a slave in a 2-bedroom apartment, it doesn't matter. You're still a slave to those debts and obligations or whatever. Now, of course, you want to make money. I'm a big fan of making money. There's nothing wrong with that. But to sell this lie that if I go to school, I get a 4-year degree, I'm going to be able to afford a home, a car, and take care of my family. Is that the case today? Most Americans can't even afford a house, even those so-called with 4-year degrees. You know why? You fell into the trap. Most people are sheep. You think they don't know how to manipulate the society? You think they don't create the narrative that they want you to be thinking about? Why is it only 2 political parties? Because really, the 2 political parties, I know we have independents, but really 2. Why? Because that's what they want you to do. Because I can divide you. I could divide you across racial lines. I'm going to divide you across economic lines. I'm going to divide you across religious lines. I'm going to divide you across educational lines. I'm going to divide you because as long as you are divided, you will never stand. And that's just the reality. It's not a racial thing. It's a human thing. You must understand. This is just the truth. There are millions of dollars being made in this country every day in the stock market. Trust me. Millions of dollars being made. But they don't teach you about the market when you're in school. They're not teaching you about credit. They're not teaching you how to acquire funding. They're not teaching you any of that. They're teaching you to be an employee just like them. And then ask yourself, how many teachers do you see are happy? Next question.
Another term that someone noticed you used recently was the term overweight mentally. what? And then you also talked about the spiritual gym.
Mm-hmm.
What do those terms mean?
The term being overweight mentally is when people are just stressed the hell out. You're feeling the rock or the weight of this life. I mean, the fact that you have to pay for water that falls from the sky for free. There is no reason, with all the land that you see all around us and even where you live at in your city, that there shouldn't be fruits and foods and all types of things that are available to us. The fact of the matter is, it's just done by greed. It's just done by greed. There's no reason for things to be the way that they are except by greed. This is just the truth. It is just the truth. And we have failed as a society. We have failed as a society of people. I'm not trying to make that our racial differences, but I'm talking about collectively as a group of human beings, whether you live in, Africa, the United States, Brazil, I don't care. Collectively as beings, we failed. We failed collectively. And we're so desensitized to these problems that it doesn't really bother people. It's not bothered that people are killing each other in the streets every day. I mean, mass shootings today is just like an episode of, the next episode of sports. You'll see a mass shooting news story, and then they'll go on to the, R-Star finals for baseball or football. It doesn't matter. What I'm simply saying is everyone's become desensitized to it. We don't. It's like we don't care about each other at all. And the only people who seem to have any value are people who have money. This creates in itself a huge division among society. But again, most people don't want to have real conversations, the real challenges that are facing us. And when we see people strung out on alcohol, strung out on weed, strung out on meth, strung out on food, overeating, all these things is stress. And I want you to understand something. This is exactly how they want it. This is exactly how they want it to be. You so confused, you can't see the forest for the trees. You're just trying to make it. I have so many young people that I deal with that are just struggling. Not just young people, too, older people struggling to hold on to their family, hold on to their marriage. Their finances are in shambles. The economy is really bad. Mr. Johnson, how do I do? I understand what you're saying, Mr. J, but what do I do? Number one, don't let it break you. First of all, none of the things you're trying to hold on to will you take with you. And I'm not saying that to be cavalier about it, but that's the truth. None of it's going to go with you. But I appreciate you need a roof over your head and a car to drive. I appreciate all of that. But the fact is, all these things that you're worried about, really think about this for a moment. This is how crazy the whole system is. You have a home, you're struggling to pay for your home. 30 years from now, 50 years from now, you're dead, and somebody else will be living in your home, and somebody else would have sold it and made money off the very thing you're worrying about at this very moment. It's a trip. Really think about that for a moment. The very house that you're worried about to make your payment. Just say hypothetically you did pay your house off and then, you died. And you don't have any heirs. Someone else will be living in that house, and all that worry and energy that you spent trying to acquire that asset will be for naught. The point I'm trying to make to you is don't let it stress you out. I have a whole nother side conversation on what I think people should be doing in this economy, particularly with their families. All this division and separate, and everybody, this person lives in this house, this person lives in that house, this person lives in this house. It's going to come a time, a lot of Americans aren't going to be able to afford to do that. You're just not going to be able to afford to do it. And you're going to find, I believe, a lot of children, even grown children, going back home, to stay with their parents or whatever, because the cost of living is just simply out of control. Now, what is this spiritual gym? I'm in the process of physically transforming my body and getting myself in shape. Okay? But what I find is that as much attention is focused on the physical aspect of transforming your life, very few people focus on the spiritual aspect. The side of you that no one sees, you guys know what I'm talking about. That voice that speaks to you when you're laying in the bed by yourself and it's just you and that voice and you're all the things you're wanting to do, all the things that are running through your mind. And I'm not really a big fan of religious leaders. I'm not trying to throw shade, but it's just so much controversy and debauchery and inconsistency with the practices and teachings of so-called religions that at the end of the day, I see why so many people sway away from it. But with that being said, your spiritual development is equally as important as your physical development. So the spiritual gym is this. 3 reps of meditation, things of that nature. You need to spend some time on the treadmill of meditation. You need to spend some time in the weight room of fasting. You need to spend some time in the gym, in the sauna of peace. If you want peace, you must create peace. Again, I will say this to you, the greatest way to predict your future within your power, what you can do is to create it. I hope that helps. That's what you got.
What age were you when you realized you needed to make major changes in your life?
Well, I was a relatively young man when I realized that my life, as I saw it, I would have to make some changes. A brief background, no pity-patty here, but the realistic assessment of how I grew up. Grew up in the inner city, dealing with a lot of the challenges that so many young individuals of my background deal with. My people, what we face as a people, I was no different growing up in the hood, that type of thing. It wasn't as violent as it is today. The value of life was held in much higher regard than it is today, but the general dynamics were the same. There were drugs and a lot of immoral lifestyles and adultery in families and things that just tear us apart, these curses that continuously plague our society, and there seems to be no common answer for outside of a divorce attorney in a family courtroom. So I did not have the ideal upbringing, but I will say that there was love and there was some level at base of standard instruction on how to be and what to do. Ultimately, I realized that I had a choice, and this is what most people I found that grow up in my type of environment, whether you grow up in the hood, and to be clear, right next door to the welfare building, the whole nine. I'm not going to go into detail because I'm going to put my family on Front Street like that. But at the end of the day, all that stuff that what it is, it went down that way. But what I realized in seeing the repercussions of those decisions is that I had to make a choice. And so ask me what age did I? It was very young, probably around 13 to 14 years old, because when you're inundated with police activity, when you're inundated with drugs, or you're just in this environment where this is the behavior that's being displayed, you're going to see things probably a little bit more sooner than another average 13-year-old who's not in that environment. But being in that environment, it actually was a blessing because it made me very aware and very keen on just being aware of where you are, what's going on. And at the end of the day, what made me change was one thing and one thing only: poverty. I hated being poor. There was nothing cool about it. You know what I mean? Seeing my mom struggle, even with my pops. They were doing the best they can. I love my mom and dad. But at the end of the day, times were different back then. What's available now was not, they didn't have access to it. So God bless my mom and dad. They did the very best they could, I'm sure. But in that environment, you're not with your parents 24/7. So you're going to be exposed to some things that they might not want you exposed to, but it is what it is. But being poor and struggling was a huge motivating factor in me wanting to move my life in a different direction. So, and then the way I did that, somebody might say, well, how did you do that? Well, the first thing I did was decide. You have to make a decision. And this is what I will say: don't get caught in that culture. Don't get trapped there. Even if you grow up there, don't mean you have to stay there. This is the first thing I tell my young brothers. And I don't mean I go back and show love. It's all good. But at the end of the day, you are not your parents. Even though environment plays a key role, which it does, that we would be naive to think otherwise. And I know there's a lot of peer pressure, because if you want to speak well or educate yourself or carry yourself in a certain manner, believe me, I know you might be teased, coon, house nigga, sellout, white, talk like a white dude, whatever the case might be. You get older, you realize it's nothing but noise. But when you're young, you actually going through that experience and you're trying to navigate through it. So I just want to encourage you, listen, man, you got to get knowledge, you got to get education, but the right type of education. Let me say that to you again. Education is important, but get the right type of education, one that's going to benefit you and not one that's going to have you in dire straits and begging for student loan debt because you can't find gainful enough employment to service that. So I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I think that addresses it.
We had another listener wanted a little more clarification on something you said in a previous podcast, but you mentioned life is hell for so many people, it's meant to be. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, people don't understand. Number one, the poor you'll always have with you. That's not my opinion, that's scriptural. Number two, when I say life is hell because it's meant to be, well, don't we all say if it's meant to be, it'll be? Well, this is what's meant to be. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know how to escape it. They don't know how to escape. How do I get out of this situation? Listen, If you really want to peel that onion back and you understood truly how powerful your mind is and what you're truly capable of, you are only living off of programs. I had to escape that. I had to escape that bullshit. Let's just keep it real. You know, I'm even now, I have to restrain myself, you know, because I don't want to come across as some angry dude, but I'm very passionate. This is all, everything is bullshit, man. Everything they told you was bullshit. It's a lie. If you don't think it's a lie, why are so many people in the same situation? Think about it. Mr. Johnson, then what do I do? How do I get out of this? The first thing you got to realize is you got to wake up. It's almost like the movie The Matrix. You actually have to unplug from this and realize, damn, I have a certain amount of time to live a life and move in a certain direction. And look at your environment, your individuals you with, whatever it is you're dealing with, and just have some real honest conversation with yourself. But a lot of this stuff is BS, man. A lot of what they're telling you is a lie. Remember this. Don't believe what they say, man. You watch what they do. I'm going to say this to you again, so you don't think OG up here just spitting some nonsense. You know, he just rambling about whatever. I'm going to say this to all my brothers and sisters. Listen to me. Don't believe what they say. You watch what they do. I'm telling you, I just put you up on some real game. It is what it is. What's next? What else you got?
We had a general question. Why is life unfair for so many people? It's kind of
a good question. Well, there's I would say the easiest answer that life is unfair for so many people is that at the base root of our existence, there is a darkness in us called evil. Now, many people don't want to address this thing called evil. They don't want to talk about it. They, you know, I don't know why, but the fact of the matter is you can't say there's good without evil. A lot of people are just fucking evil. I'm telling you the truth. And I find that this whole politically correct type of mannerism, that ain't gonna get it done. I'll keep it a buck. This is just a uniform. This is not who I am. This is just what I wear to look acceptable to society. I come off the block, man. I've been through corporate. I know all that BS. This is all a charade, man. This is all a facade. It's all perception, man. I'm telling you, man. Once you understand the game, you got to learn the game. You got to learn the game. A lot of us are born into unfair situations. If you're born and you don't have your father with you, you at a disadvantage off rip. People can say what they want. They beat the dudes down, dads ain't shit. No, none of that's true. When you take that male element out of a child's life, you put that child on a road to disaster. Men need to be around their children to instill discipline and structure. So when you grow up and you don't have that in itself, you at a disadvantage. And that's no shade on the mom, because God knows nothing but respect to the mothers, man. I'm sure you're doing the best you can, but it was never meant for you to do it by yourself. That's just the truth. Without all the dogma and BS and the back and forth people be going over with. You know what I'm saying? Nobody care about your kids but you. I'm telling you the truth. The family courts don't care. None of that stuff cares. At the end of the day, it's unfair because a lot of us, it's not just evil, but a lot of us participate in the evil. Well, what is the evil? When you live an immoral lifestyle, when you out here having sex and you not married to her, he or him, whatever the case, you can say what you want. I've seen it. I got aunties struggle. Trying to take care of their kids, trying to have a life. Let me just keep it real. It's fucked up. It's fucked up, man. Why can't we see that? Fairness, man, if you bring a child into this world without both parents at the off rip, it's at a disadvantage. Then you add the element of poverty, another disadvantage. Then you add the element of environment, another disadvantage. This is why people who come from those environments, we celebrate them so much, because the odds were stacked against them. This is exactly why we celebrate them. So, let's just keep it real. No more of this soft BS conversation. The world is in dire straits. People are hurting. People are suffering. You can post on Instagram like everybody's making $1 million. I'm wise enough to know a lot of that's just bullshit. But these young people aren't. Not that there's not some people doing their thing, because it is. But most people are not. And not just young people, middle-aged people, old people. Here, let me hip you to some real game, because I got clients of all ages. All of them going through it. All of them. Even your so-called most wealthiest ones. And I have friends that have a lot of money. Trust what I'm telling you. It's all a game. And if you're not prepared for what's coming, if you don't pay attention to the things that are going on around you, you're distracted. You're distracted with stuff on TV, bullshit. Shit that, you know why they have Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Super Bowl, All-Star Game, Valentine's Day, back to back to back to back to back. You're distracted. All of those situations are designed for one thing and one thing only: to take your money. And let me tell you, they have become masters at it. They have become masters at it. Masters that you need stuff that you don't even need. They have a way of programming you to make you think you want a burger. That's why the commercials run so much on TV, or make you think you're going to be sick. That's why there's so many pharmaceutical drugs on television. You see, they understand. They understand how to get to all of us through the mind. Through the mind, you must understand this. Why do you think TV and music even exists? You put on a certain song to make you feel a certain way. See, because they know that sound frequencies can change emotional states. I'm telling you the truth. They know if I show you a commercial in the middle of the night of a juicy burger, even though you just ate your dinner, man, I sure will go for a burger. It's all psychological. And because you don't guard your mind, you let anything in. And what you let in, sometimes it's very hard to get out. But anyway, long-winded answer, but I hope you got something from it.
You mentioned the facade of appearance in that last answer, and we actually have a question about that to delve in a little farther. How much does appearance actually matter in the real world?
Well, it depends on what world you're existing in the real world. There are many worlds within this world. You have the sea world, the animal world, the financial world, the heterosexual world, the homosexual world. What world are you referring? There are many worlds within this world. But I understand the general question, but I just wanted to make it clear that when we say world, oh boy, believe me, there are many worlds within this one. But nevertheless, your appearance matters because we've been conditioned to judge people off of it. That's why. It's just that simple. We were never conditioned to judge people off of it. It wouldn't be something that would be brought into question. But because we've been taught that, and you said, we've been taught that, but then we also told this too: never judge a book by its cover. So, that sword is kind of double-edged when you really think about it. But that's human nature. We have one saying, and then we have another one that contradicts that. So it's just our state of base confusion as people is something that's nothing new here. It's been going on for, ages. But anyway, that's what that is. But I will say to you, hey, if you want to be in corporate, you got to dress that part. You want to be a rock and roll guy, you're probably going to dress that part. If you in hip hop, you're going to dress like my brothers who do hip hop. It is what it is. But I will say this to you. Material and clothes and all those things are important. I like clothes. You should have nice clothes and things of that nature. But, you get all that stuff done once you got yourself in a situation to where you need to be.
Someone was curious in general how to pray.
It's a good question, how to pray. Well, there are many different texts that teaches people how to pray from, I don't have to name all the books, but I'm sure we're all aware of them. What I do is to be honest with you, some might not agree with this, but I just spend time just talking to God. I believe in God. Now, that might not be politically correct. And when I say God, I believe in the Creator. I don't believe necessarily in the traditional sense that people have been taught. I've been hearing God is coming back since I was a little boy, and my grandmother was a preacher, and people still waiting on him. That's not to say it's not true, but the fact of the matter is that's what I was told, and 56 years later, I'm still being told the same thing. However, when you start talking about prayer and religion, religion is somewhat of a sore spot for me because I see the games with how they go, charging people bread, $1,000 prayer lines and all this other nonsense, and people so desperate for hope and help, man, they'll buy into it. You so desperate for somebody to have a life or whatever it is you're dealing with, and this slick dude up there in some suit running game Talking about you got $1,000 coming this line, and then if you ever read that book, man, they don't do half the stuff that book say. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it real. They don't even do the stuff the book say, man. I mean, I done read a lot of stuff in that book that I see in the regular environments of churches that, don't it say don't do that? What's up? And, some BS excuse. So when it comes to religion, man, I can expound on it greatly. Please don't let my stammering give you the impression that I'm not fluent nor educated in that text, especially the Bible. Believe me, spent many years doing this, and it's just it's a journey. Do I believe in God? Absolutely. Does God exist? Yes. Do I believe the Messiah, Yah, is the Son of God? Yes, I do. Do I believe most people know the truth? No, they don't know. First of all, that is if the truth came out, this is what I would tell my wife all the time. If people told the truth, there would never be a mega church. If people told the truth, if you told the truth, what this book actually says, the historical reference, what it's talking about in grave detail with evidence to back up and support the narrative that you're asserting, it would destroy the basic fundamental principles in which most people believe in Christianity. I can assure you of that. And again, that's not to make it a right, wrong, or indifferent, but I just know that most people do not live in the truth. This is how I see it. They use the book like a restaurant, like a buffet. They pick and choose what they want to believe. That's the best way I can put it. So, but if you're going to pray, be humble, pray continuously, be disciplined when you pray. Don't give up if you think your prayers are not being answered. And I will say this to you, your prayers are always answered. Let me say this crystal clear. Your prayer is always answered. A lot of times you just don't realize that the answer was no. This is what I would tell people. A lot of times people, man, I prayed, and it didn't change. The answer was no. Let me just say, if it was meant to be, it'll be. You see this? You see how I want you to understand the ideology and the psyche of us as people. We'll say if it's meant to be, it'll be. Then you'll say, well, have faith. If you have faith, believe that you have it, and you'll have it. But there are many people who have loved ones in the hospital that are praying for them to recovery, and they don't. But no one talks about that. That's what I mean, the hypocritical stuff. It's always going to. It's like being in business. Everybody always sells you on the up and not the risk. You know what I'm saying? So, deep question. I hope I answered the best I could.
We had a listener curious about your morning routine and what you would recommend to others.
Well, I live a very fortunate life by God's grace and mercy. I've been married now, it'd be 29 years this year, and my wife and I have been together for 31 years. And, our routine is pretty much what it is, and I'm very fortunate. She takes very good care of me. I love my wife dearly. I know marriage gets a bad rap in 2024, and it's not something that's looked upon favorably in our society. I get it because times is different now. As my one of our dear friends say, they don't make them like you and Mrs. J no more, Mr. Johnson. They don't, people don't think that way no more, and so be it. But my routine is simple, man. I wake up with love with my woman. Real rap. When you get a certain point in life and you got your affairs in order. Let me be clear. When you got your systems in place, you feel me? When you got things lined up, when you can get up and enjoy your life to some degree. You know what I mean? So I can wake up, it's just my wife and I now, we're empty nesters, and, we might have some coffee and she watches some show or whatever. I'm on my phone doing what I do, check what I do, doing what I do. But my routine is simple. Now, what I will tell you, if you're young, your routine should be grinding. I don't want to say grinding because grinding implies wear and tear. What I will say is focus. So if you're young, Mr. J, what would I do if you were what would you tell your 20-year-old self? Don't make any kids. I'm telling you what I'll do. Don't make no kids. Protect your credit. Stay out the damn system. Stay out the damn system. Choose my friends, my lady, wisely. I would try to lead with intellect as opposed to hormone. I'm telling you the truth. That's what if I was telling and then I would just I would take care of my body. I would save. I would live below my means. I'm telling you, I'm giving you free game on how to get out of this. You see, what most people don't want to feel is suffering. Let's just keep it real. No one wants to suffer nothing. I don't want to go through a hardship financially. I've been there. I've been through the bankruptcies. I've been through the foreclosures. I'm telling you the truth. I know what it is to have financial pressures and woes, but what I do when I get up in the morning is live in love, but how I got there was through effort and work. You see, what I want you to see is if you can create an environment for when you're 50, you have to do that when you're 25. Unless you hit the big game or the mega million, some lottery, or you hit off big in crypto or stocks or something like that, the environment you want to create for when you're 50, you're going to start it at 25. And then you're going to work your way towards that. And you're going to go for it every damn day. And here's something else I want to tell you. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Don't look at your family and friends and say, is this all that they want? Means I have to accept this as well. When they challenge you on your ideologies and philosophies or the things that you want to do or the way that you view things or however you articulate yourself in the manner befitting of the individual in which you want to become, and they chastise you and tease you, laugh at them. Trust what I'm telling you. So what I would tell my 20-year-old self, even a young woman, I tell my young women, listen, my young ladies, this, value your life, man. Your body as a woman is your biggest asset. They can say what they want. You can get educated. I got a wife. I'm married 30 years. She got a master's degree, bachelor's degree, all that. All that. Real rap. I'm just keeping it real. And what I love about my wife is her femininity, how she takes care of herself. Now, granted, we've been placed in a situation where she could be at home and all that, but it wasn't always that way. We grinded together. I would hope that man or a woman could find someone that you can build an empire with, as opposed to finding somebody who already got one. Find somebody you could build something with. And so when you're 50, y'all can wake up, have coffee, sit there and converse with each other, chop it up, whatever. Life can be good, but we lack structure and appropriate planning. And the word that a lot of people fear is accountability. If you want your life to get better, it's simple. You got to become better. How about that?
How do I find my passion?
That's a good question. Trial and error, probably. That's what I did. I spent many years in corporate America, many years as an executive, doing very well, and all those things are cool, and you can get to a certain degree. But even that, you get your home and cars or whatever, and you do what you do, the so-called American dream, and even that, in my opinion, was very unfulfilling. It just was a program that I was taught we should run. Once I achieved that goal, it wasn't enough. It wasn't satisfying to me, and that's when I became an entrepreneur, started several businesses, and find myself here today. But I'm always encouraging people to try different things, particularly young people. Try everything, man. There's no rule book on what you're passionate about. Here's what I will tell you. Here, I'm gonna give you some more game. There's a difference between what you're good at and your passion. Let me help you to understand what I'm saying. I was very good at running large hospitality establishment. I was just very good at it. I don't know. I just was good at it, right? But I'm passionate about teaching. You see, I want you to understand that. I was very good at that. Some people might be very good at it. You just naturally are good at it. For whatever reason, it kind of comes easy to you. And we all have these gifts. I believe that. But what I'm passionate about is what I really enjoy doing. I did the hospitality thing because I was very good at it, and I made a lot of money doing it. And not that I didn't enjoy it. I don't want to give that impression. But what I'm passionate about, what I feel so good about, is always speaking and educating and enlightening and inspiring people to higher heights. And usually what most people say, follow your passion. Well, a lot of times your passion won't pay you. This is why I try to say you might find something that you're really good at. So if you're a great editor, I'm great at editing, but I'm passionate about singing. But I haven't found a record deal yet. I haven't found somebody to sign me. But that doesn't mean I should stop editing, because I'm very good at it. This is how I make my living. So there are a lot of different things you could do. But what I will say to young people is this: try as many things as possible. Don't be closed-minded. What I found growing up in the African American community in the hood back in the day is because all you are is around your own people all the time. It's the culture. Everybody's saying the same things, talking about the same things. You're all kind of exposed. We're all kind of exposed to the same thing. So what I would suggest to you too, if you want to see something different, you gotta go somewhere different. If you want to experience something different, you have to go somewhere or connect with somebody else that you can experience something different. It's very hard to escape the environment if you don't see where you want to go. If that makes sense.
How do you prepare for a business deal or a business pitch?
Well, I haven't done a business pitch in many, many moons. I would tell someone this, man. The art of business is relatively simple, but it is people that make it difficult. A lot of times, ego gets in the way, greed. This is just the truth. I've read several books when I was younger in my corporate days. They're really old books now, but I remember one of them was Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I remember reading From Good to Great. I remember Who Moved My Cheese years ago. There was so much different literature out there, and then different quantum theories on business and this, that, and the third. But how you prepare is just through doing your due diligence, obviously, and there's no preparation for experience. Sometimes I tell a lot of my young mentees this. They're businessmen. They're doing well by God's grace. All of them are doing very well. And I'm very proud of that, and in some way I play a part in that, and the things that I try to elaborate with them, and believe me, they're held to a very, very high standard at all times. But the thing that I see that people should focus on is when you're trying to grow, do business, doing business deals, that knowledge is the quintessential thing you must have in abundance. Knowledge, but knowledge is not experience. And I want to make this clear. This is why a lot of young people that come out of college, see, they have acquired knowledge, but they lack business experience. This is very clear. And a lot of people struggle with the transition. There is a grace period where you're just going to have to grow. So how do you prepare for meetings? Have you done your due diligence? Have you read the documents? Have you checked it again, and checked it again? Have you consulted with the attorneys? Have you been through the finances? Have you understood the underwriting process? Have you developed a relationship with your banker? There's so many things that you need to do, and But what I would do is just be prepared. But I will tell you this: the more prepared you are, the less worried you are. I will say that to you. I've learned that the more prepared that one is, the less anxiety you're going to feel because you're being prepared for whatever endeavor you want to do. But again, there's no substitute for experience, and give yourself time to grow, whatever you're trying to accomplish, particularly in business meetings. I have some basic rules I'll share with you. I've done many business meetings, been in many dinners and events, and here's my philosophy: first one there, first one to leave. Real simple. Never no more than 2 drinks. Never no more, especially if we're doing business on a large magnitude or on a huge scale. Do not get too comfortable. These people are not your friends. This is a business transaction. Hopefully in time you will develop a relationships, and if God wills, you'll become friends. But learning to manage with your mind and not particularly with your heart, to trust your intuition, to trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it probably is not right. So, those things, don't wait years in life to strengthen your intuition and things of that nature. If something doesn't feel right, hey, listen, don't feel pressure to sign anything if you're not really committed to doing so. And no one wins them all. Believe me, I don't win in everything that I do. I win a lot, but I don't win at everything. But it's just part of the process. So, but just be prepared and ask questions. Ask questions and listen. The greatest art in a business meeting is listening. Let me say this to you again. The greatest art in a business meeting is listening. Now, I'm very quick. My team will tell you, Mr. Johnson, he's going to hear you out, and he might get up in the middle of the meeting and attend to something. That's why you have individuals around you that represent what you're about and what you're doing. But after a while, I believe in becoming very efficient and proficient. That's something I would tell people in business. Don't waste time. You can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. Your time is the most crucial element that you have. And learn. I pretty much have a 3-meeting rule that I employ. It's worked well for me. And not that it's a rock solid bar, but it is the standard. Sometimes the meetings go beyond that, but first is meet and greet, second, scope of services, third, cut the check, where's the documentation, where are your attorneys, whatever it is you're trying to do. Business is simple. Now, some transactions require months of meetings, so I don't want to oversimplify that, but most basic business, it can be done in 3 meetings or less. So be efficient and proficient at what you do.
Well, someone from Instagram was curious if you believe in fate.
In fate?
Fate.
Oh, fate. Well, yes, I do. I'm of the mind, this is what accomplishing certain things in your life will give you the ability to do. It will give you the ability to not conform. At the end of the day, I'm not of the mindset that we are just here by accident. No one ever asks the most germane and most pertinent questions that we all should be asking. Why are we here? Why do we exist? And outside of the religious material that's been made available to the populace, based off the evidence, this is the only thing that we have to go on. And not that it's not true, I'm not questioning that, but the fact is there's still a billion unanswered questions. And it seems to me that the majority of us are oblivious to the real question is, why are we here? I don't think we're just here to drive Mercedes-Benz and live in the mansions and get lit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it has to be more to life than just that. Then you work, you born, and you die. You mourn for the person that died, and then you die eventually. And it's this cycle that's going on, and no one's ever asked the origin of it. What the hell's really going on? Why are we here? What's going on? Can anyone tell us? Without the religious dogma, can anyone tell us? And what you will find is a bunch of ideologies and philosophies, and no one really knows. And that, my friend, is the question that keeps me up at night. I'm not saying that what I've been taught isn't the truth. I'm not saying that I don't know it to be the truth. But most of what I know it because I believe it to be true, as with all things. So, do I believe in fate? Well, there's a scripture that says all things work together for the good for those who he foreknew, he predestined. Predestined means the predetermined outcome. So if something is predestined, that means it's already written. And if it's already written, then whatever's supposed to happen will happen. Maybe that's where we get that saying, if it's meant to be, it'll be. So, I don't know. Maybe someone could expound upon it.
Last question for this batch. How to battle the fear of missing out?
FOMO. Oh, you hear that term often in the market. The fear of missing out. That happens a lot. But here, listen, I'll just say this to you. No one wins them all. Your fears, whether they be real or made up, they are, something you have to deal with. But at the end of the day, no one wins them all. Learn to control your mind, your thoughts, and things of that nature. I only pretty much fear one thing, and that's God. I'm going to die. We all are. So why would I fear that? I don't want to die anytime soon, but it's just a reality. So why would I worry about that? And so I think a lot of our fears are just based off of programming that needs to be deleted out of the construct of your mind. Hope it helps.